Welcome to Bite Size Bunny, my name's Tony, and today we are going to be ranking every Life is Strange game. The Life is Strange series is one of my favorite video game franchises, and with Reunion finally out, I figured it'd be fun to go through and rank every installment in the series. So without much further ado, let's get to it. I absolutely adore this emotional roller coaster of a video game. Life is Strange is one of my favorite games of all time, and I have replayed it so many times over the years. This is one of those stories where there is so much going on, it easily could have fallen apart at any given moment and turned into a muddied mess. You've got the mystery of what happened to Rachel Amber. You've got everything with Max's time manipulation powers. You've got the visions of the storm that is coming to wipe out Arcadia Bay, and then you've got the Max and Chloe storyline. And those are just the main storylines. That's not including the plethora of subplots that are introduced throughout the narrative. But Life is Strange does such an excellent job at pulling it off, while also making everything that pops up throughout the narrative feel like a crucial piece to the puzzle. And it all comes together beautifully by the end of this journey. It is masterfully handled, and they tell such an amazing story that keeps me glued to the screen every time I play it. And that's before we even talk about Max and Chloe, who are the heart of this game and have this beautifully crafted romance story. I love their dynamic. I think they're both really awesome characters, and watching the partners in time go through this absolutely hellish story will always have me rooting for them. I could honestly yap on and on about this game, but we've got 6 other games to talk about, so in the meantime, to get things moving along, I'm going to be throwing Life is Strange up there at S tier. Before the Storm is one of those rare cases where a prequel's existence actually makes the original story feel significantly more impactful. Throughout Life is Strange, we constantly get to hear about Rachel Amber and how this one person touched the lives of so many people in Arcadia Bay. But what's so impressive about her story in that first game is that we never meet Rachel Amber, but we still feel her presence painted across that entire journey. And that's just from hearing the various stories about her and also seeing how people react when she's brought up in conversation. So when you get to Before the Storm and you experience that story with Rachel and Chloe and they didn't drop the ball, it is insanely impressive. This game does a brilliant job at fleshing out Chloe as a character and really highlighting why she is the best character in this franchise. Yet at the same time, the way they go about bringing Rachel Amber to life in this game is so well done that you immediately understand why everybody in Arcadia Bay loved this character. She's such a charismatic character that isn't perfect despite everybody in this town thinking otherwise. And getting to learn about the real Rachel Amber alongside Chloe's character really amplifies all of the emotional weight that is felt in that first game. Before the Storm could have been a cheap cash grab that felt like nothing but fan service, but instead what they did with this game makes it feel like an essential must-play title in the Life is Strange series. And that's why it's going up there into A tier. This short 2-hour experience is a surprisingly charming one. This game does a great job at bringing Chris's childlike wonder to life as he uses his imagination to embody his superhero persona, Captain Spirit. But what I really dug about this little slice of life story is the attention to detail they put into the environmental storytelling here. All of this takes place in Chris's house and in his front and backyard. But as you wander around the environment and take the time to read the various notes that are left around, and also listen to Chris talk about the various items you pick up and interact with throughout this journey, you slowly piece together the tragic story behind this family until it eventually reaches its emotional climax. It's a short experience and a very simple one too, but it's very effective for what it sets out to do. I'm going to be throwing The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit up there into B tier. Life is Strange 2 is probably the darkest installment in this series. But despite all of the darkness that looms over you as you embark on this journey, there is a very heartfelt and sincere story about these two brothers that love each other and are trying to do the best they absolutely can as they are forced into this nightmarish situation they're trying to get through. And that story of the Wolf brothers is really what carried this game for me. Playing as Sean and having to keep your little brother Daniel safe as you are on the run during this nationwide manhunt is such an intense experience. But then the game also puts you in this position of having to make decisions that are going to have a massive impact on Daniel and what kind of person he's going to grow up to be. After suddenly being put in the position of being his sole parental figure, despite being only a kid yourself. Not only do these decisions shape Daniel and who he is as a person, but they also play a large role into shaping which of the four main endings you get for Sean and Daniel's story. I do think there are some sections in this game that drag on a little longer than they needed to, and because of that factor, this is one that I'll probably have longer gaps in between each one of my replay sessions for it. But this is still another great installment in this series. I'm going to be putting Life is Strange 2 up there into A tier, right below Before the Storm. True Colors is probably the most underrated entry in this entire series. I went into this game knowing absolutely nothing about it, but I fell in love with it and ended up playing through the entire thing in 2 sittings. This game quickly sold me on Alex Chen, it sold me on Haven Springs, and it sold me on everybody that's living inside of this small charming town. The way they went about utilizing Alex's empath-focused powers was way more clever than I was expecting it to be, and at the same time, it made for so many powerful story moments. I really love this game, and I love its characters too. I would love to see Alex Chen and Steph make another appearance in a future installment in the Life is Strange franchise. I think they're two of the best characters we've gotten since Max and Chloe. This will also be going up into A tier, right below Before the Storm, but above Life is Strange 2. Double Exposure is not a bad game, but it is a really disappointing one. For me personally, the reason why it's such a disappointing entry in the franchise is because it doesn't feel as focused as any of the previous installments in this series do, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's actually telling a complete story either. The first half of this game is great. I think the premise and setup are awesome, and I loved getting introduced to Safi, Moses, and Amanda. I was all in on this one. But then it gets a little messy in the second half, and that's because you can quickly tell that they're no longer focused on telling a self-contained story, but instead are focused on setting up future installments in the Life is Strange franchise. That decision really puts a damper on all of the great elements this game had going for it, and it really just left a bad taste in my mouth by the time the credits started to roll. And that's why I'm putting Life is Strange Double Exposure in C tier. After Double Exposure, I was a little nervous about Reunion. I was still very excited for it, but I was trying to keep my expectations in check for this one. Thankfully, Deck 9 managed to pull it off, and the conclusion of Max and Chloe's story is one of the best installments in the series. This game does such a great job at giving you a story that feels like a proper send-off for the partners in time without making your decisions in Life is Strange 1 feel pointless. And that alone is a pretty impressive feat in its own regard. Not only does it do a good job at concluding Max and Chloe's story, but the way it goes about tying in the events and characters from Double Exposure was surprisingly way more satisfying than I was expecting as well. It was great getting to see the characters of that game once again, and this time getting the proper ending that they deserved. I also thought it was really cool getting to see Chloe interact with characters from Double Exposure and kind of form her own unique relationship relationships with characters like Moses and Amanda. This was a very satisfying experience and a great ending for these characters that we know and love. I'm gonna be putting Life is Strange Reunion up there into A tier, right below Before the Storm, but above True Colors. And there is my official ranking of the Life is Strange franchise. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And what is your personal ranking of the Life is Strange games? I'd love to know.